GameSpot and IGN have both recently been given demos of Engage to play. There wasn't full footage of their playthrough of the demo, but they did both release around 5-minute videos where we got both new footage and new information on the game. First, I'll talk about what we've seen from the character screens where it shows their stats and items. We can see that alear at level 4 already has B on swords and has decent all-round stats. We've seen most of this before. You can see alear's divinely inspiring ability as well as Marth's abilities as well. Next up for Vander, he's a level 1 paladin and he can only use axes as far as we can tell. I don't know if this is how it will be on release, but it appears he can't use lances and swords. Starting with S on axes is really interesting though. His stats are okay, so I'm not really sure how we're going to make him a viable unit late game, but us seeing him as an axe fighter before in a different video makes it likely that you'll be able to class him down so you can maybe get some extra level ups. His personal skill is Alabaster Duty, and I don't know exactly what it does. It might have been shown somewhere before, but I can't recall. We can see that Clan has 8 magic at level 3, which is okay for him, but his dexterity and speed are pretty high, and his res is decent too. His strength is low, unsurprisingly, and his personal skill is Verdant Faith. I imagine this is something to do with self-healing or magic-related stuff. His tome level is B, so a lot of the units seem to be having quite high weapon levels at such a low experience level. Pram is level 2, and she has B on staffs and C on body arts. Her strength is only 3, so she's not really going to be dishing out the damage, but she has very balanced stats otherwise. Her personal skill is Crimson Cheer. We've seen it in action before, and we know that it will be giving some kind of in-combat buff to units near her. However, in the footage from this video, we can see her fighting an archer where her own skill Crimson Cheer does proc, meaning that it must be something to do with allies near her, and it affects her or her allies as well. And here's Alfred. His personal skill is Self-Improver. We can see here that it activates when he enters movement. I'm not exactly sure what it will do, but we will, I'm sure, find out soon. He also starts with a B skill in his preferred weapon, which is Lancers, and he has 10 strength, 10 dexterity, 8 defense, 5 res and 9 luck. So quite nice stats, but very low speed in magic. 80 is a level 4 archer, and she has B in bows. She has very high strength and dexterity and seems to be losing some speed, so maybe we'll have 6 or 7 speed when she's actually not debuffed. So those are pretty nice stats for an early game archer. Her defense and res are very low. Her personal skill is Energize, so I assume that's to do with using consumables like vulneraries or consuming food or something like that mid-battle, and that will give her extra healing or maybe a stat buff. Here's Bukron. He's a level 4 axe fighter. He's got B in axes, and you can see that he's got the standard build for what you think is a fighter, very high strength, decent dexterity, speed and defense, and quite low res. And he's got a bit of luck in there too. His personal skill is Move to Tears, which is a bit surprising. He hasn't really come across as a sort of character like that, but I'm not sure if he's moved to tears by specific things, but we'll have to see. I don't think he'd be like a crybaby character, but we shall find out. We also saw Louis in this screen, and he's a level 6 lance armor here, and he has a very nice 16 defense, which is massive, and 13 strength. So really what you'd expect from an armored unit with extremely low res, speed and magic. And he has his personal skill Admiration, which I'm sure we'll learn more about. What's important to note that I haven't brought up before is that there's actually a build stat. This will likely be similar to Constitution, which we've seen in previous Fire Emblem games, but not any recent ones. Or it could just be related to weight. We'll have to see. We also got some short clips where we could hear Clan and Bukron's voices for the first time, so I'll play them now.
Here I go! Here I go! I'll take this! I'll take this!
In this next clip we see Chloe fighting and doing a massive 2 damage. We then see the level up screen where she gets a fantastic level up, and we get to see a quote and her face in the corner. I have to say I miss portraits, but I don't mind how this looks. Then we can see another clip where she's in combat and she triggers her special Fairy Tale Folk. We know that this special is related to being adjacent to someone. At first I thought it might have something to do with the chain attack coming from Bukron, but there's a clip at the end where we see her fighting the boss, who's called Nelucci, and Divinely Inspiring and Fairy Tale Folk are triggering. We know that Divinely Inspiring is related to being adjacent to allies, so Chloe must be adjacent to alear here, meaning that Fairy Tale Folk triggers off that. We also see that there's no chain attack, so that clearly isn't a requirement for the skill to trigger. She's doing quite a lot of damage to the boss, so I imagine it is giving her some kind of power buff. Here's just a funny clip of Alfred having ridiculous movement with Sigurd paired onto him, 13, and you can just run around on the map with him. They display both free movement and movement with the arrow, and here we can see the skill I mentioned earlier, Self-Improver, which is Alfred's personal skill. We don't exactly know what it does, but I imagine it's to do with weighting. I thought this was something very important to cover because it confused me at first. We can see Alear's damage calculation here being 14-7, 14-7. The bonus attacks from Marth are displayed to the left of Alear's attacks. The first 7 from being engaged with Marth is break defences. This occurs if you perform a break like Alear just did. Then after the 7 damage from Marth's break defences is Alear's normal 14 attack. There would have been another 7 damage after if Alear hadn't killed, and that would have come from Divine Speed, Marth's other ability, which triggers after your final attack of combat. The enemy never performs their attack because they were broken, meaning that they cannot perform a counter attack. And the final thing I'll show from these videos is the end screen. Clan engaged with Celica appears on the screen because they were the MVP of the battle, and it's just a really nice screen overall and is pretty pleasant to look at. I do hope we have some more stats after this screen though. So I hope you all enjoyed watching. Make sure to go and check out the actual IGN and Gamespot videos. I put them in the description because there's a lot of gameplay I didn't show because I only wanted to highlight the things that were new or important. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.